So these line types are all on separate layers. We have to manage them to get them to look right. First and foremost, we have red lines, we have black lines, and we have white lines. I want to make sure that they're reading as a family so that they will communicate in this drawing. So I'm going to switch my red lines to either black or white. I'll decide in a bit. But I also have hidden lines. Hidden lines are, they are usually, I don't want to go through the whole drafting explanation, but how many of you know what a hidden line is? Okay, so it's probably significant enough that I should mention it. A hidden line is a line that is hidden from the plane of view, right, or the picture plane, right? Simple enough. So if this happens to have a dip down in the back, right, the hidden line is usually shown as a dash or a dot, and it shows the axis of where hard edges travel behind the picture plane. Okay, so I didn't draw that perfect, but you kind of get the idea, right? It's stuff that you can't actually see, but you need to communicate. So these hidden lines are going to have to be changed to A, be thinner than the other lines, and B, will have to probably be either, like translucent so that it kind of, grays out, or actually white and dotted or dashed or something like that. So we need to make it kind of hard to see, right? Not hard to see, but less prevalent than an object line. So let's start with the visible lines, right? These are the object lines, the red lines, and I don't know why they came out white here, but over here on the right, you guys should know this. You can select all objects on a layer just by clicking on the right side of the layer, and that's going to be really helpful for you. So these make 2D visible lines. If I just click here on the right, it selects all of them. Oh, that's the wrong. Oh no, that's the cut layer. Okay, I probably don't want to keep those. I'll probably just delete that whole layer because that's the cut. So I'll delete that. Yeah. So this other make 2D visible layer, that's these right here. These are the visible object lines for the red track. And so these I'm probably going to change to something a little bit thicker. So I'll make them a 1-point white line. I'll try that for now. And I also want to rename this layer because I don't like the naming convention. So if you double click it, you can rename it. And I'm going to call this red visible. Actually, I'll call it visible red because I want my visible lines. Never mind. I just want to see the visible lines first. Then we just kind of need to go through. So this is the visible line for the purple track. So I'll change this also to a 1 and a white line, and I'll rename it to visible purple. And now I have these two hidden line layers. This one right here is hidden for the red track. Hidden red. This one I'm actually going to bump down to a 0.5, and I'll also make it white. But now we need to look at the actual stroke. I forget what you call it. Click that. Just dash line settings. So these are your stroke visibility settings. I'm not going to teach you anything else right now except for how to make it a dash or a dot. Okay. So when you check this box, it's going to change the line to actually dash based off of the pixels of the image. So right now the default was to dash it out at 12 points, and if you don't fill in the second bar, then it says 12 points with a 12-point gap, and then a 12-point line with a 12-point gap. If you select it and you define a different gap, let's say I make it a 30-point gap, then it's going to change the spacing between them so that they're really, really far apart, 30 points apart, to be honest, or to be exact. So what we're going to do here, since 12 is kind of a long dash line, we want to reduce it to something that actually makes a tiny little almost dotted dash. So I'm going to reduce this to 2 points with a 4-point gap. And that's what you get. So let me just finish up the second one, and then I'll talk to you about how it looks. So the other layer we have is the purple track, and I'm going to do the same thing. Leave it as black. Actually, maybe I'll make them white. I'm not sure. No, white will be too much. I'm going to leave it as black. 0.5, and let's see, I did dash line 2.4 point. See, it borrows the previous setting. So here's something that is significant. It's a design decision. Okay, I want you to think of your graphic representation as a design. Okay, you design the way that you communicate the information. So you heard me kind of go back and forth about whether or not I wanted to use white dash lines or black dash lines. There's a reason I chose black. I chose black because the hidden lines in many cases come out a little bit imperfect, particularly because this geometry is a smooth form, so it doesn't read or process them very well. I happen to be doing a black and white drawing, and the full effect, or being able to read every single line that doesn't appear in this drawing, is not the important thing. The important thing is that I can generally see where it goes and where the other apertures are. That's the important information. So I don't need to see all of this knotting of stuff turning around in the background. It's not important. So black lines will disappear, and it'll show me the aperture a little bit more clearly. Does that make sense, how I sort of thought it through as a graphic design decision? Okay, so you should be practicing that going forward. It's super, super important, and you will eventually be judged on it. So not in this class necessarily. Well, I mean, yes, in this class, but I'm not saying I'm going to be like your harshest critic. But your design professors absolutely will care about this kind of decision. Okay. So with that, this is essentially going to be the transition now from modeling this project into representing this project. Okay, so starting next week is going to be where we are, taking some test cuts. We're going to be doing draft renders through our sections. We're going to decide where and when we want to communicate certain things about it, and then we're going to start to compose actual renders. So see how it's really dark inside? Well, our job is to make it not a pitch black hole of probably some horror film or something like that, okay? So we're going to kind of light it up. We're going to look at interior illumination from an exterior condition. We're going to study this thing. Any questions? So who can guess what that means for you this weekend? Yep. Get it done. Finish your model. I'll say this. If you are having such a hard time getting these corners to fix, then you probably need to go back and simplify your form. Okay?
Do you want us to try it out?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Actually, I do want you to try this out, and I do want to see it. It doesn't necessarily have to be done tonight, especially because I'm going to be taking off soon, but I do want to see this as a progress for Monday. Or Tuesday, sorry. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. So you just want us to get caught up and then get something like this?
Yeah. You can do this now. Like, I'm not saying your model has to be perfect when you do this, but when you do this, if your model isn't perfect, it's going to take you a bit longer. So it's up to you.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a satisfactory response?
Yeah. Oh, and also, how much thickness? I mean, how much do we offset the walls? Like,
That's up to you. That's a design decision.
For the third opening, if I don't want to make another track, can I just
Um, that's a good question. For the third opening, do you want it to be, or do I want it to be an opening in the side, or does it have to be like an actual tube? Right, that's your question. Um, it does actually have to be another extrusion on it. So what that means is you're going to have like a secondary compound corner that won't blend to the surface like you have with a singular track. The good thing is if you don't want to deal with that, or if you don't want to try it out, I didn't say, I know I stated this before by accident that you can only have 2 tracks. I didn't say that. So you can have 3 tracks with 2 openings if you wish. Okay. So hearing no further questions, I move to adjourn.